Hi guys, this is Dandelion Song, and I had to take a look at the Eiffel Tower code because I have been working over there, Eiffel Tower, with my Philae line, so I wanted to see what kind of code they had and if it had to do with the Philae line. So the Daily Mail is always good to start with, and what I wanted to show you right off is that they have a 606 here in their comments. This is not the real amount of their comments. These are all special numbers, but it looks like we have a 106 and a 110 number tie-in from the research that I've done so far. I just want to show you this 106 tie-in, of course, ties into the Philadelphia train wreck if you've been paying attention to that. But let's just start first of all with this one because this is going to catch your attention. Eiffel Tower closed after 3 terrorists, let me make it bigger, spotted with large backpacks. Now normally, and I did put terrorist suspects because that's in quotations. I did put that in, and I'll show that to you. But I also did large backpacks. And look what we have here. We have a 923 date, and not only that, but we have a Rockefeller number, which was very active. This is basically equals Rockefeller, and it's very active, of course, in lots and lots of their coded events, and especially in 9/11. And this is especially coded because this date right here, 923, equals 9/11. If you take this as the Gregorian calendar and the 9/11 as the Julian calendar, and as you become more familiar with our mafia media, you'll realize that they flip these calendars back and forth, and the reason why is because Washington D.C. is actually a Roman city-state, so they just have us operate on a Gregorian calendar. Meanwhile, they have a bunch of coded events that are kind of going back and forth between the two calendars. Now I just want to show you that there's really no slop in the code. It's just a matter of how deep you look. It's not these movies that you see about people who decode things, in their brains they go crazy because they have to struggle so hard to find numbers that match. You don't have to struggle to find numbers that match. They are basically everywhere. They're all over laying around at your feet. I'm going to move this so that you can see the coordinates. Now you're going to have to look in the lower right, because if I move my cursor, the coordinates change. So we're going to look at the Eiffel Tower itself. And I'm going to show you that there is a... Let me zoom in, make sure I got this exactly right. There's a 928 right here. It's hard to tell if you're exactly right over, because I just had a 923 and then I moved it. So you see on the right there is, it looks like it's a 928 or a 929. And then it just depends on exactly right in the middle of this square where you put it. Right here you have a 923. I'm looking at the north, the one that's going north. Well, we're also going to notice the 48 and the 51, and we're also going to notice the 2 and the 17 and the 40. The 40 has to do with the US. US equals 40. And the 17 is the high kind of pi. It's the pi code for that. The 2 is actually the letter B, which is also code for Isis. She's pregnant with the Holy Child with the letter B. And she is the 2. She combines the 1 and the 2 to make the 3. And then but I wanted to show you because there's a 29 there. Now I just want to show you this 29. If you look in the north one, I'm moving all around to the lower base of this. It's mostly 29 right in the center part of it. 29 by itself is a 911, but if you, depending on where you move this, right in the center square right here, there's also a 923. There's some other dates in here. So I wanted to show that to you. 930 is also a very interesting date that we need to keep an eye on and it is a 101 date, and we do see I think we see 101 coding for sure in this event here. But 930 is a date that has to do with 101, and I'm going to tell you more about 101 having to do with this area in Paris. But 101 is also the gematria of the Hoover Dam, and the Hoover Dam also has, I think it has 928 in its gematria, it has two different gematries. There's a 101, and I think in the Jewish gematria it's a 928. I'm just kind of going on the memory. It's one of these. It's either 923 or 928, or one of these September dates that everyone's watching very carefully. Well, the interesting thing about 930 and the Hoover Dam is that is very close to its birthday, the start date. Either they opened it or construction started on that day. So that's also a day that we need to watch. And there's a lot of 9-3 symbolism, of course, having to do with 9/11, the 93rd floor. Zachary K. Hubbard is really good. He can rattle off 20 of these 93s having to do with 9/11, but there are a lot of 93s having to do with the Eiffel Tower too. So we need to add that number into our ability to see these numbers. So this 930 that we see here, it's not a throwaway number, because this Eiffel Tower man is 1.01 mile tall. So we have a gateway number just in his height. And my last video right before this that I put up goes into a lot of extensive work on this whole line and all the gateway symbolism that's on this line that I found. I call this line the Philae line, and I haven't seen anybody else talk about this line before, but there's Stonehenge, Paris, CERN, Palatine Hill, Lago Averno, Pyramid Mountain. There's a pyramid, a really old pyramid that seems like nobody knows about. It's not in Wikipedia, but it's on this line. And then the Temple of Isis down here. And this is the Philae Island, and this has to do with comets. And we're all a little concerned about comets right now, so that's why I think we should. All right, so right there my computer stopped working, stopped recording. I guess my hard drive filled up, and I'll talk to you about that later, about how to fix your hard drive in case you're doing this kind of thing. But what I was talking about was the comets being coded with 53s and 35s, and what this having to do, I can't zoom in because I have a still right now, with the island of Philae. And this is supposedly the resting place of Osiris, and there was the Philae comet robot put up by the European Union that was in the news a little bit back, kind of in the spring or early spring, and it was talking about how this robot came back to life as it neared the sun, and it was named the Philae comet. So that's an Osiris resurrection type of story, and so that's what we want to keep an eye on, all these comet stories and the codes that are behind them, so we can try to figure out what they're really saying. So then I finally got my computer back up, and then I started taking more video. All right, so I explained to you about the 101 gateway number here, the height of the Eiffel Tower man, and I can't remember, but I think I showed you that this is on the forehead of Isis right here. Almost like a piece of jewelry or something like that. And I think, see, I did this recording, and then my computer didn't record it, and it's crunching right now, so I don't know what was actually on it. But we talked. Hi, so I pulled up the Hoover Dam numbers for you, because as you remember, I think I talked about that the Eiffel Tower man here is 1.01 mile tall, and on this whole Philae line are a bunch of gateway numbers, including CERN, which has a building that looks from the top like 101. And so I was telling you how 93 ties into this Eiffel Tower area, 928 as we can see, and 101 and 606. So that's so here we go. Okay, yeah, so it has 928 in here. Now all of these dates are in the coordinate of the Eiffel Tower, depending on where you move your cursor in that small box. But the Eiffel Tower also has 101 numbers, and we have seen 101, I think there are 101 and 606 numbers in this backpack story, so let's go back and look at that. So this is really the heart of the issue, because this is the heart of our Eiffel Tower man, and he seems to have been stabbed with this tower, or it kind of reminds me of a voodoo doll kind of an idea. But I had to stop recording in the middle of this and just try to fix my hard drive, because it was the screencast was eating up all kinds of hidden places in my hard drive, and I periodically mine that out and clean it out, but right in the middle of this it wouldn't record anymore, so now I don't remember. I'm not fresh on what I actually talked about, but I think I talked about the large backpacks equaling having this date in it, right in the title, and this is usually right here in the title, and we are going to do terror suspects. But here's your Rockefeller numbers, and I think we just talked about that. Okay, so in the video that I just put up, about the clock and deriving pi by 7 by 22, or deriving pi by 7, I talked about this number, 296. This is the number in its anagram form of 269. This is the heading there in Washington, D.C. Let me go there real quick. All right, so here's the skull as we come in, just to show you that this is the heading right here, 296, and it equals terror suspect to the anagram of it. It's from the Capitol building. It goes all the way out to Mexico, but especially right here. And here we have your 110 Rockefeller number, okay? And here, this is a 27. This is a 9 and a 2. This is a 911. You know, there's really a lot of numbers around here. Something is about to go down, and I would just like to get all the information to you so that we can say, huh, we pretty much knew that, right? All right, so it's also in this Daily Mail story. Theirs are very heavily coded, all their stories. I just want to show this to you. I'm putting them all in here so that hopefully we can look at all the numbers as a collection, and you'll see how many 106s, and here's a 106, and how many other numbers. This is the February 16th Baphomet number, the 2160 diameter of time for the zodiac age. It's also here, but this one also has a different number. This has the GO number in it. And here's another 106. 106, 106. So those are sevens. On the train, it was a divergent 7, and it had to do with the way. And they talk a lot about the way in these codes. The word way has 49 gematria. That's also 2 sevens. It's the divergent way, and we see this symbolism on Tiger Woods' hat, on a lot of on the head of the Amtrak train, and we see 777 highways, you know, all over the place, from Roanoke, every place that something happens. Georgia Guidestones has one. The way is everywhere. So whenever you see the 77 in whatever form it is, think of it as the way, the divergent way. And that's as far as I think it is. There's a divergent way going up and a divergent way going down. And I think to the Freemasons, it symbolizes their right to change events, that they have the right to do these things. I think that's what it means to them. I'm not sure. So as long as we're on this page, the Eiffel Tower, I hope you can see this, it's a little small, I'll zoom in. The Eiffel Tower has the Jewish gematria of 1186. Now this number, the 816 and the 618, is the phi number that stays the same through the square. This has to do with Philadelphia, and it has to do with all of these news stories that have happened this summer, basically. Every single one of them has an 86, an 816, or a 618. It has to do with the Georgia Guidestones, the Hoover Dam, because they found skeletons below the dam that are carrying a sign holding this date 816 on it, which is just a number 816. It's just phi backwards. So that number is extremely active, and so that's why they're bringing the Eiffel Tower in here. I'm going to do some alignments just between these hot spots. I haven't done that just with the Eiffel Tower by itself yet. This is the 44. This is the clock. 74 is the God number. This is their G and their D. They take out the O on that. So I don't always mention this every time, but the 7-4 is the 4th of July, and that's what they're really celebrating on the 4th of July. So if I don't always mention 7-4, I mean to, because that's kind of like the intro. I almost wanted to say the 101, but isn't the 101 like a gateway? It's like the very first class you take in college and all that. Well, anyway, also the 7-4 is the 4th of July. It's not the celebration of independence. It has to do with their idea of religion. So this is, you know, you can kind of see this as God kills, you know, that, you know, and with the stake through his heart, kind of looks like that Eiffel Tower man got killed. I'm not sure, but that's what I think these numbers are meaning for us right now. The 44 number, we need to always think about that being the clock now, because of the video that I just did tying in pi derived by 22, having to do with the menorah code alphabet. Now the 222s is a 44. I tied it into the letter D, having to do with the Roman alphabet in this video that I just did, called clock code. So now, whenever we see a 44, we need to think about it as being a code for the alphabet. pi derived by 22 divided by 7, that kind of pi derivation, and also the kill number. And we just got to bring the clock into it. There's a clock cipher that I'm working on. On this page, they talk about a terror alerts right here. Again, there's a 106 right there, and a 900 and a 150. I wanted to have a picture for you. I took this picture, I screenshot a picture from Zachary K. Hubbard's video recently he did in the last week or last 2 weeks, where he put up a definition from an old book, a book from the 1700s or 1800s with a definition of terrorism. And this is why we need to pay attention to the old books, because this is a little bit how they burn books, is by making them irrelevant. They don't really burn them, but they just become irrelevant, and you think that they don't mean anything anymore, but your old books do mean something. And in the old books, terrorism was defined as a method of governing. It was not defined as the way it's defined now. I looked it up in Wikipedia. It's like anything that that causes terror and affects more than one person, or affects more than the immediate victim, is terrorism. That's not the original definition. The original definition was it was a method of governing by fear. And I had that in my screenshot. And then my computer crashed, so I lost it before I saved it. So I have to go back to Zach and see if I can figure it out, because I couldn't find it in Google Images. If anybody finds it, I'd like to have that again. So here's the terror suspects gematria that goes with this headline right here. I think it's actually in a few of these stories. This is a 16, so it's kind of like a 911 upside down, or it's a 116, and it also kind of has the echo of that 106 in it. Okay, so just pulled this number off of terrorism scare off of this. Oh, nope, it was this one. I just wanted to tell you that I'm not taking this as truth just because I'm not actively calling it a hoax. As you can see, it's a ridiculous story. There were reports of someone with a large backpack. Maybe backpacks aren't allowed. Maybe I just don't know what the culture is. But to me, it seems a little outrageous to think that Paris people are going to get a little worried about people with big backpacks. So to me, it feels like they did this having to do with just the code that they're putting out here. So this phrase has the 816 and the 618 in it too. This one has a 703 gateway. Now, I haven't talked about this number for a few videos. The 37 and the 73 are mirror prime numbers that I believe they use as an idea of creation of the quantum random frequency generator, or wherever we are that we might be trapped here. And also maybe creation of like the craft, or like making a story come true, or like setting out to do something and making it come true. This would be the final number. And then 37 is the beginning number. And then there's the 1221. This is the 21st prime, 73. And the 37 is the 12th prime. So there's a 1221. And that, of course, is a 33 having to do with the 33rd degree masonry. Well, so this is a gateway. So you can see that so what they're saying is terrorism scare is the gateway by which they could complete their craft. You see? This is, if you get, really steeped in this gematria, then the code starts to come out at you. This is kind of like a Bride of Christ gateway, because it has a 0 in the middle. On this side it has a kill, that's 86, where you 86 something. So, they're probably saying the creation, something about killing the Bride of Christ, because that's the theme that we have seen this whole summer again and again, whether it's Allison Parker, the lion, or the people in the Bible study, all of these things. Not only that, but look who else is the gateway. I think there's only one R in that, though. So I just want to call your quick attention to the time that this was published, because these are everything here is code. Here's a 9/11 when it was updated. Basically, I think you're so used to seeing this that you don't see it anymore. And here is this is a 9 and a 4, but really I'm gonna take the 9 and the 3. because of the 93 tie-ins having to do with the Hoover Dam and having to do with 9/11. I'm going to take that tie-in. Oh, so this is a little better. This is a different story. They weren't just worried by seeing them with backpacks, if indeed this is a true story, but they were actually climbing the backpack, climbing the tower, which is, there's probably rules against that. So I grabbed this off of this website, off of this one. I'm mostly just looking at two here. I'm shifting back and forth between the Sunday Express and the Daily Mail. So the anti-terror police, and I just wanted to point out this little mind F right here. I mean, it's not little, it's big. But where basically terrorism by definition is government rule by terror, and then just to confirm that that's exactly what's happening here, they have the police standing in as the anti-terror police. If you get used to how they do their circular logic and how they trick you, this is just basically a confirmation, just so that it's clear as day. And we have the 926 again here. So they're really pointing towards this date. This is the date when the Pope is going to Philadelphia. And I have a 10-part series about the Pope in Philadelphia that pretty much lines out the, actually skims the top off of most of the symbolism of each site while doing the geography as well. All right, so we have some 9s here, 88s and 11s. I would like to point out that 8 plus 8 is 16. So the way that they view some of these codes is that you would have a 9, you would have an 8, and you would have a 16 in here, and then you would have your Bride of Christ number again. This is a 17, so this is kind of like pi for them. So it would be 2 9s. See how we have 2 9s? In the Pope numbers, I found lots and lots of double 9s, because the Pope and higher up spirituals like to associate them with associate themselves with being holy, being complete, being the all and the nothing. And so if they associate themselves with double 9s, that's their numerical way of saying that they have achieved it all. They are the all and the nothing. They've arrived at the 9-9 spiritual club. So just to kind of add to the ridiculousness of this story, even though they have helicopters and they have all their anti-terror police, these people apparently fled the scene and got away, possibly by parachute. Let's look at that. So we have a 9-3 here. That's a Hoover Dam tie-in and a 9/11 tie-in. Floor 93. There were tons of 93s in 9/11. So these other dates. Oh, that's a 16. Okay, so this is also this is an alarm number. 5-5 is an alarm number, so it's like Snape, alarm, quake. In movies, this is the place where the movie music gets really scary, or a sudden scare. Then they have a 55 in the timestamp. Well, here, if you add all this together, that's a 16. So the 16 goes with the 8, and then again, you have another Bride of Christ number there. So I think all of these words are chosen. It's almost like they pump these words maybe out of a gematria counter, and then they just cook up a story that goes with it. And then they put it on a certain day. Usually when I do these numbers, the date pops out. So like we would see a lot of 9-2s, and maybe I did see 9-2s and I missed them, because usually when I put these, like if we take the whole thing and put it all in there, normally on these stories what pops out is the date over and over again. But before we do that, I just also want to point out that they always have the story of like, well, despite all their best efforts, these people got away on parachutes. The poor police are doing their best to protect people, but you can tell that people they still keep slipping through their fingers, which implies that maybe they don't have enough surveillance, they don't have enough control. How can people get away on parachute? That's kind of the idea that's going on. All right, well, so I don't see the date here, but we do have another 9/11 right here with a 4 added to it. So I don't see the date in this one, but I'm only looking at 2 articles. Okay, I guess I found the date. This one is a 9-2. So I guess normally I might see that as a 9, as a 911 because 9 plus 2 is an 11. So probably I have seen the date and I thought it was a 911. This one, here's a 9-2, having to do with the amount of shares. So they do have the date in here. I don't know why they encode the date. I wonder if they have a bunch of these stories waiting to go and they just don't want to confuse themselves on which day it's supposed to be to go out, so they do it that way. I'm not sure why they do that. So at 9 a.m. it was closed. By 2 p.m. it was opened. So there's another date, 9 and 2. Okay, so here's more of the date. This is just upside down. It's a 6-2, but that's actually a 9-2. Alright, so here we are in Fox News, and I grabbed the suspicious men and put that into the gematria counter. And over here we have a 9 and an 8, and then we have the 8 and the 7 is a 16, so that kind of shows you again the 816 number with the 2, so it brings it through the square. In case you're, when I see the 816 plus A2, I think of that it's a Philadelphia code, because or any place else that has 2 5s in it. I think that's the algorithm. All right, you guys. Well, thanks for watching. I'm going to try to edit this down a little shorter, but